All right, and now for the last exercise, you have the item removal for the apartments. Uh, this is definitely going to be the hardest one that you've done yet. Um, I beg you to reserve your frustration. Let me know if you're having problems. Uh, take a couple deep breaths every now and then, and if you do those things, you'll probably be okay. This is, like I said, it's the most difficult, but in a way, it's one of the most rewarding ones if you can do it successfully. And this is really the type of activity that Photoshop shines at. There's no way that you could do this, what we're about to do, in Illustrator or in InDesign or some of the other things. This is 110% pure Photoshopping here. So we're going to open up the apartments. There we go. Nice big image this time. If you need to zoom in, you can zoom in. You're probably going to want to zoom in on individual parts later on, but for now, you don't have to. Uh, for this, you're going to have to think creatively. You're going to have to think critically. You're going to have to look for patterns, and you are going to use the clone stamp tool. So I'm going to start. I like the size of my brush right here at 21. I don't know. 15 might be better. Go ahead and get a smallish type of brush. I encourage you to start with patterns. What we're going to do is we're going to take out this car. We're going to take out this car. We're going to have to draw our own edge of the grass over here with driveway. And we're going to have to draw like our own front porch door section over here. We're going to have to finish the bottom of the house and windows. We're going to have to finish, there's a small retaining wall that comes across here. We want to recognize and recreate this pattern here in the door. So I am going to start over, I'm going to start over here with this, this crack in the door. So you can really come in, you can see my pixels here. I'm going to put my target right here on this crack. Yeah, we'll go up here. It's fine. I'm going to line the crack up right above the car, and I am going to go ahead and paint down. Now you can see I've gotten to the car again here, but before I let go, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to paint in the rest of this, this white here. Okay. And the reason that I'm hesitating to go much further is this is a different color down here below this rail than it is up here. But I can, however, I come over to this side, I can get this shadow. Now, if I'm lucky, yeah, that square lined up. Okay, but I went too far, now I got this shadow going on. So I'm going to actually step back on this one. Try it again. Okay. And see how those squares lined up? The shadow lines up. So as long as if you can recognize patterns and you can start lining things up, you're really in good shape. Dang it, I did it again. All right, you're in good shape. Just be careful. Try not to go too far. All right, I'm starting to pick up the front of that car there again. So I am going to go ahead and stop. I am going to get my trigger again. I'm going to go up here on this top corner of this square. I'm going to line it up here on this bottom corner of this square. And that should let me finish the rest of the door. You can see right here where the bottom edge of like the garage door is. You see that little bit of black there? I'm going to leave that there to indicate the door seal. I'm also kind of leaving a little bit of a blotch in this shadow because you can see where this sticks out, the bottom of this white pillar here. So I left a shadow that's going to match that. All right, over here, I'm going to reselect this. Okay, I've matched my shadow up. Now, one of the things that I want to do whenever I get down here to the bottom of the door is I probably want to get rid of that the square pattern. The square pattern probably wouldn't go all the way down to the ground. Alright, if I have to come back up here because I screwed up the shadow. Okay, got my shadow. Now here, this is going to get a little bit tricky. I want to copy this color over. Okay. There we go. Alright, so I expanded that. You might have to go back a couple of times. But once you have a good thing going for yourself, like I've got a nice long thing here, I can pretty much go all the way to the ground now. Okay. Now, I have run into an oopsie there. So, step backwards. Let's see, up here, I'm going to go ahead and give myself a wider space. I'm going to start eliminating some more of this car here. Okay. Alright, this actually is a good chance for us to go ahead and try spot removal, because I got that little bit of weirdness of white there. We can see how that turns out. There we go, beautiful. Get rid of some of those spots. Try to use this sparingly on this, but if it helps you, I mean, you got all the tools available to you, use them. Oop, too much. Let's see. Now for doing some of this stuff, you might want to go back and make sure that you have a hard edge. That might help you for getting some of these pixels like dead on the edge. Okay. So if I'm trying to line that up just perfectly. Might be something I want to do there. All right. So where the real tricky part comes into play is whenever we're trying to end some of these shapes. So I'm getting down to the bottom. You're going to have to be a little bit creative here. You're going to have to come up with smart ways to end these. Now, fortunately, under here, we've got a lot of dark shapes, which we could kind of imply are shadows of some kind. That would maybe be easier to help us end. For some of these things, though, you might not know how they're going to end until you bring up some grass or something from the other side. So don't freak out on some of these. Oh, screwed that up. All right, so you can see, I mean, this is not a cakewalk for me. I really have to take my time here. I really have to kind of trial and error some of these things. It's going to take a little bit. Okay, but you can slowly see things start to paste together. Now you are going to see some of these patterns. You're going to see some weirdness. Again, potentially when you're done, you could go back and maybe clone stamp some of these things to kind of help fade them out, look a little bit better. Again, I would hold off on that. I'm doing it right now just to show you what I'm talking about. I would hold off until the end. But when you zoom out, as long as you don't have like these weird jaggeds and stuff like that, it's just going to look like another texture, just like the side of the house here. All right. For some stuff, you're not going to be able to use the edges, unfortunately. You're going to have to kind of fudge things and make up your own lines, your own edges. I'm going to take this grass edge over here, and I'm going to use it in my... Oop, what? Okay. I knew that. All right. What are you doing? Oh, I'm in the spot healing rush. Alright, ignore what I just did there. Thought I was in the clone stamp. Alright, I'm going to select this edge over here. And I'm going to try to... The angle isn't the same, but I'm going to try to use it to still um, make the edge of this driveway in this yard. Okay. And once I'm satisfied with that, I can go ahead and do it again. Okay, I'm going to get some of this driveway over here to help blur some of this out. Whoop. Alright. Gonna undo that. Alright, so there's gonna be some artistic license in this. This is probably gonna be the one exercise where you guys are gonna have a handful of different variations, because of just kind of how you are imagining things are gonna look. But this is potentially a very real world application of this software. This is definitely something that's on the Nocti. You are going to have an exercise on the Nocti, or one part of it is going to be them literally asking you to. They're going to show you some objects on a table or something, and they're going to ask you to believably make it disappear. So do take this seriously. Try to make it look realistic. Try to do the best that you can. Patience is definitely going to be the key here. All right. The best thing that you can do is going to be to find patterns. Try to recreate patterns. All right. If you can do that, you're going to be all set. Okay. So I've given you at least a place to start here on the Jeep with this yard, the car this yard, the garage door. I took about half of this one out of here. I'm going to let you guys try to figure out where to go from here. Keep in mind that objects that are further away tend to be behind them and therefore wouldn't be as long. So for this down here, as far as the driveway goes, you might have that driveway just line up here with the bottom of the door, and that's great. But this other house that's behind, maybe it should be a little bit shorter than this house. Okay? Things like that. Keep that in mind. Again, try to do a good job. Try to make it believable. Sometimes if you're not convinced with how well you're doing, take a step back. Zoom out. Is it believable from a distance? Is it believable if you are not super critical? If you think if somebody looks at it on just a glance, like if you think somebody would believe it on just a glance, with this being your first time doing a major edit like this, don't be too critical of yourself. This is definitely going to be difficult. And if you are having trouble with this, by all means, invite me over to your area. Invite me to look at your computer. I want to help you with these things. I know that there's a handful of different other things going on in the classroom at the time, but if you want a second opinion, if you want to make sure, whatever the case is, do not hesitate to ask for sure. Okay? I'm going to make a new bush here that wasn't here before. All right. Again, hopefully you get the idea here. You might have to go over the same area a couple of times because you screw it up because you're goofy like me. All right, you get the idea. Okay. So, again, when you're finished, zoom out. Don't forget about your name. Don't forget to print it out, and do not forget to hand everything in. Whenever you are finished with all the exercises, if you did them in order, and this is your last one, make sure that you print them all out, that you staple them together with the Adobe Photoshop exercise rubric. You can give me all of those things. If you ended up tearing apart your packet to tear out like the directions or something like that, I don't need those directions back. You can feel free to put those in the recycle bin. But I do want that front rubric that has the blue and orange squares on it, and I want copies of each of your exercise on their own individual papers, okay? If you're done with all that, you can drop it in the basket, and you are all set to start working on your movie posters. So, good luck with finishing this one. I hope that you have learned a little bit about Photoshop here. You definitely know more than enough to be dangerous in Photoshop now. You can start working on your movie posters, and hopefully those are going to be killer. So, I look forward to seeing those, and I will, I guess, talk to you in class whenever this thing gets out of the way. Okay.